Alright, my dear student, welcome back to your French language course online. This is Chidi. In this lesson, I am going to introduce you to the textbook we are going to use for this course. The book we're going to use is titled Liberté. It's a first year one French book for universities written by Gretchen Angelo. And if you wanted to pick up a copy, this book is free of charge. You can download a free copy by going to lightandmatter.com/French. The book is published under the Creative Commons Attribution license, which means that you can take it and use it and remix it. Give attribution, give credit to Gretchen. We are using the 2017 edition of this book. Now, if you look at the table of contents, you see that there are hyperlinks that connect you to the pages where these subjects are treated. So if you click on the hyperlink, it can take you to that page. This version that I have on screen right now is the student version, and it covers chapters 1 to 6. One thing you notice is that at the beginning of each chapter, the learning objectives are identified. So in chapter 1, for example, we have 3 general learning objectives. We have communication objective, culture objective, and grammar. So under each section, communication, for example, you have certain things that you need to understand by the time you complete the chapter. So same in culture and same in grammar. What I have done, because there's quite a lot of information in this book, and you can see that the book is written in English mostly, especially the explanation of those grammatical concepts. Those explanations are written in English to make it easy for you to pick it up and read it and understand what is going on. What I have done personally is to break this book into units. I've gone into the book and extracted certain information that I have built into units that we are going to cover in this course. So that allows me to structure the book in the way that I really want to teach this course. And also it allows me to extract the things that are really, really important and make sure that we are highlighting those things in order to achieve our learning objectives. So in that case, I'll be doing my explanations using the units that I have built out of the Liberté book by Gretchen. So you're going to be using both. So here is the website where you can download a copy of the book, lightandmatter.com/French. And then if you just click on this student edition, chapters 1 to 6, January 2017, and you can pick up a free copy. But because the author has done a lot of work in this book, so I will encourage you to support Gretchen. If you click on this link here, like buy this book online from Lulu, it brings you to the Lulu page where you can pick up a copy. Please pick up a copy in order to support Gretchen for his work. But if you don't have money to support, that's okay. We can still, you can use the free version to achieve your learning objectives. So this is where I'm going to stop this lesson, and in the next lessons we will begin the work. Merci. My dear student, welcome back to your French language course online. This is Chidi Igwe. In the previous lesson, I told you that the book we're going to use is Liberté. I told you also that I have gone into Liberté and extracted the information that is there and rearranged things in units to enable me teach this course the way I would prefer to teach it. And in this lesson, I am going to identify the learning objectives of Unit 1. The reason it is important to identify the learning objectives right from the beginning is it will help you as a student to focus on what really matters. That way you can manage your time properly and focus and make sure that you are really understanding the things that you need to understand. I mentioned that Liberté, each chapter provides 3 global learning objectives. Communication, culture, and grammar. So the units will also follow that format. So each unit will have its own learning objectives that identify certain things that you need to target, but also helps you with the strategy to target them. So the first global learning objective in Unit 1 is culture. And under culture, you should be able to understand a brief history of the French language. So you should be able to understand how it became a language and the origins of the French language. And also, you are going to be able to know what we mean when we say standard French. So that means that you are exposed to the concept of variety of French language, different varieties of French language. And then you should be able to know certain countries that speak French. So exposure to the Francophone world. You should have some level of exposure to the Francophone world by knowing the countries that speak French. Francophone world. So these are the key learning objectives from culture perspective for Unit 1. Now let me add another page here. From grammar perspective, grammar and language, you are going to learn the French alphabet. So we say l'alphabet français. L'alphabet français. So you should understand how to read the French alphabet. You should understand the difference between l'alphabet français and l'alphabet phonétique international. So the International Phonetic Alphabet. You are going to have some tips on pronunciation. So you should be able to learn some tips such as nasal sounds, French accents that will help you when you begin to pronounce French words. And the next thing that we want to know from grammar perspective, grammar and language perspective, is how to count. So we should learn how to count numbers 0 to 100. That's the basic target, but also you're going to have information, general tips on how you can count up to billions. So counting. And now from communication point of view, you are going to be able to use the knowledge of French alphabet and the knowledge of International Phonetic Alphabet to be able to articulate and spell some words, including your name. So you're going to be able to learn how to spell words in French, spelling, and you will learn how to introduce yourself, introduction of self and of others. So you should be able to tell people your name and understand people when they tell you their names. You should be able to spell your name when you tell somebody your name. You're going to be able to provide number-based information. You'll be able to use numbers to provide information. So just say number-based info. So yeah, you'll be able to tell, for example, the population of your country, the population of certain countries. You should be able to do that in French. And you'll be able to do basic math. You should be able to understand basic mathematical signs such as plus, minus, division, multiplication, equal to, and those kind of things. So we say math symbols or signs. And you should be able to add up numbers in French. For example, 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 minus 2 is whatever it is. You should be able to handle those kind of basic things in French language. So these are the general learning objectives of the unit. And if at any point, by the time you finish the unit and you're not able to do these things, then you need to let me know so that we can figure out how to help you. If you need extra support to be able to do those things, we will create time for you to do that. Merci. Welcome back to your French language course online. In this lesson today, we are going to build the background context that will enable us to launch into the French studies. A lot of students ask, what French are we going to learn? This question suggests that there are varieties of French. Another question that you may ask is, where does French come from? What is the origin of French language? So the language that we call French today evolved from Latin, a mixture of Latin and some other local languages spoken in the area that is called France today. And that area, so many years ago, used to be Gaul and Franks that lived in the area. And then they were invaded by the Roman soldiers, and the Roman soldiers imposed their languages, their Roman, which is Latin language, upon the area. And so there was a mixture of some elements of the native Gaulois languages and the Frank languages with the Latin, Caesarean Latin, to give us what we now use today as French. It has had its own evolution over the years, but that you can study more in history. So now, we talk about standard French today. Now, some people don't like to use, some linguists don't like to use the word standard French because it seems to suggest superiority of a particular dialect over other dialects. What that means is that if we go to this map of France, actually in French map, we say la carte de France. So if we go to this La Carte de France, you can see some regions. You see Bretagne, you see Normandy, Picardy, you see the Paris area, but Provence down here, and Bordeaux, Bourgogne, all these different areas. And in these different areas, there are some different dialects of French that people speak. And the dialects can manifest itself in the way the language is pronounced. People from different regions may pronounce certain sounds differently, or they may use certain words that are not used in other places. I remember when I came to Canada in 2003, everywhere I went, I was talking about my trousers. Then it didn't take time for me to realize that up here we use pants, instead of trousers. So if you want to talk about the real pants, we talk about the underwear or underpants, but trousers, I realized quickly that it was an old language here. But if you were in Britain or in Nigeria, for example, you use trousers regularly because that is what is used there. So these are dialectal morphological differences in the language. So the same thing happens in French in the area of Paris, and that is how dialects represented in the morphology, in the words used, choice of words used, and in the pronunciation, in the way speech sounds are articulated. So now, when French became internationalized through means such as colonization, slavery, and those kind of things, you can read it up in history. Then it began to be used in other places. We use French in Quebec, in Canada today. We use in Nova Scotia and in New Brunswick, in Canada. You have the Acadians. Then there is Acadie Français that's spoken up there also. There is Cajun, which is spoken down in Louisiana in the United States. So these are all varieties of the French language. Now, how do we bring all these varieties together in an international form that will allow everybody to communicate and still understand one another? So the French that's spoken in the Paris area, Paris, this French, because this area is the key administrative hub where you have lots of courts, court activities, administration, the government, seat of government, and those kind of things. Then over the years, this French that's spoken in the Paris region became standardized, and now that is what you now call the standard French, the international French, some people may say. Some people may say the Parisian French. Okay, so when we are learning French language in a classroom, we are trying to learn the French, the sound, the way it sounds, and the language, the morphology, the words used in the Parisian area, and as standard French, because that version, that dialectal version of French, anywhere you go, if you go to Martinique in the Antilles, dans les Antilles, if you go to Guyane, if you go to that's the Caraïbes, in the Caribbeans, you will still be able to make yourself understood. You go to Africa, you go to Congo, you go to Cameroon, you go to Gabon, you will still be understood by speaking the standard French. So that is basically what it is. Again, what I have said is that French began as a version of Latin. There are other languages that also emerged from Latin during that same historic period of colonization, of invasion of the some parts of Europe by the Romans. So those languages will include today Italian, French, Portuguese, Spanish. We call them, we know these languages as Romance languages. Romance languages. And they have a lot in common till today. If you speak Espanol, you will see that some words, you have a lot of words that you already know in French, though those may be pronounced differently. You speak Italiano, is the same thing. Portuguese is the same thing. You have the base vocabulary is derived from Caesarean Latin, and which continue to evolve based on the country or the geographical location where they are used today. So we will be learning the standard French in this course, and that is the Parisian French, the one that is spoken in the central regions of France. Alright, my dear student, welcome back to your French language course online. This is Chidi. In this lesson today, we are going to begin to work on the French alphabet. The things we're going to be doing today are a bit boring, until we get down to where we start engaging in the communication aspect of things. But bear with me as we go through this process, because this will give you the foundation. It will help you a lot in the future when you start seeing a bunch of letters coming together in the form of words, and you're trying to figure out how to pronounce them. So the French alphabet is just a bunch of letters, just like we have in English, and we combine all these letters to form words. The alphabet, each letter of the alphabet that's in a word, like remember, for example, may not be pronounced. All of the letters may not be pronounced. But there is another part of the alphabet which we call the International Phonetic Alphabet. What the International Phonetic Association has done is to bring all of the European languages and major languages, and then look at the phonemes, the speech sounds, the smallest unit of sound, and then create that in the form of a chart that you can use to describe sound. So when you see these things that come under crochet, those are phonetic transcriptions of the whatever letter or word that's given, and that part is coming from the International Phonetic Alphabet. So just to give you more information about the International Phonetic Alphabet, I've gone to the website of the International Phonetic Association. It is actually internationalphoneticassociation.org, and then pulled up this PDF file that has the International Phonetic Alphabet. So these are speech sounds. These are sound units, the smallest unit of sound. So this, if it were an ordinary letter of the alphabet, we would pronounce it as P in English or P in French. But because this is a sound, it is pronounced as P. This is T. This is K. B. D. G. M. And so on. So you have consonants, which are hard sounds, and then you have vowels, which are soft sounds. So you have the vowels too. And the International Phonetic Alphabet also contains some other characters, diacritics that are used to describe languages. Now, what happens is that every language does not contain every sound in the International Phonetic Alphabet. So, French, for example, does not have sounds like this or sounds like this. And so that's basically what it is. To recap, you use the International Phonetic Alphabet to transcribe words in the major European languages. And the sounds that form the International Phonetic Alphabet are smallest unit of sounds. We call them phonemes. So in ordinary alphabet, regular alphabet, this will be N. Whereas in International Phonetic Alphabet, it is N. So the smallest unit of sound, so that you can begin to combine those sounds into words. So now that we know a little bit about the International Phonetic Alphabet, it will be easier now for us to begin to practice how to pronounce these letters of the French regular alphabet. Répétez, s'il vous plaît. Now, you are going to be hearing me give you certain commands, classroom commands. I will be saying things like répétez. That's a P, by the way. Répétez. That means repeat. I may add to it s'il vous plaît. I may add to it s'il vous, that's an S, plaît. So I may say répétez s'il vous plaît, that means repeat, please. Répétez s'il vous plaît, repeat, please. Now, répétez s'il vous plaît, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So these are the French alphabets accompanied by their phonetic transcriptions, how to pronounce them. So play this section over and over again and practice how to read the French alphabet. There is a YouTube link here that I want you to click on to see that chanson de l'alphabet, alphabet song. I'll put a link on the website for you to access it directly. So I will stop this recording here, and when we come back in our next lesson, we will continue to build upon this knowledge. My dear student, welcome back to your French language course online. Je m'appelle Chidi. In this lesson, we are going to begin to work on Unit 2. First of all, congratulations for completing Unit 1. You are doing a great stuff, you are learning stuff, and I hope that you are taking advantage of the recorded lessons and the resources that we provide here to learn French. First of all, let me add a page here. In this lesson, I am going to go over the learning objectives of Unit 2. It is important, like I said in Unit 1, that you know ahead of time what the expectations are, what you are expected to cover by the time you finish the unit. That way you can focus your energy on the things that matter. We have 3 global learning objectives. We have communication objectives, and under communication you are going to be able to do a few things by the time you finish this unit. You are going to be able to see people and greet them in the appropriate ways in French. So greetings. You will be able to introduce yourself, introduction of self. Introduce yourself to people and also hear people, understand them when they are introducing themselves in basic, simple, everyday kind of communication. You'll be able to give personal information such as your address and place of birth, etc. Now you also be capable of telling people about your nationality, where you are from. Nationalité in French. Let's write this one in French. You should be able to talk about the language you speak. So you talk about your languages. You should be able to describe yourself. So, and describe other people too using adjectives. So we talk about physical description. Description of self and of others. So these are the key communication objectives that you must target. You must make sure that by the time you finish the unit, you are able to do these things. And if there's any one of it that you're not able to do, you need to let me know so that we figure out why you are not able to do that. If you need explanation, further explanation of the concepts, we will find opportunity to provide that. I'll add another page. We also have communication objective that's linked to culture. The language belongs to a people and a people have culture. So we will look at faire la bise. So we look at la bise, which is the cultural aspect, certain cultural aspects of French people that are related to greeting. When you meet people and greet them, what kind of things do you do? Like handshake, like give a peck or give a kiss or those kind of things. We will understand those cultural elements. And now, very importantly, the other key communication objective will be grammar. By the time you finish the unit, you should be able to know what is subject pronoun. You should be able to know a subject pronoun and be able to identify all the subject pronouns we have in French. You should also know the persons that those subject pronouns represent. So subject pronouns and persons, you should be able to know that. You are going to be able to engage in verb conjugation. So conjugation of verbs. Verb conjugation. You will understand what is conjugation. You will understand what is infinitive of a verb and how conjugation can change infinitive to different forms. We'll look at certain verbs like être and so on. In order for you to be able to describe yourself, to give physical description of self and of others, you should be able to know descriptive adjectives. What descriptive adjectives. So these are the key learning objectives of the unit, and you must make sure that you know how to do these things, or you know what they mean by the time we finish the unit. Welcome back to your French language course online. Je m'appelle Chidi. Bonjour. First of all, I want to congratulate you for completing the previous unit, Unit 2. Now we are about to launch Unit 3. In this particular lesson, just like we have done in the previous units, we're going to take a look at the learning objectives of Unit 3. Just like the two previous units, Unit 3 also has grammar, culture, and communication learning objectives. So let's begin with grammar. In grammar, by the time we are done with Unit 3, you are going to continue to perfect your knowledge of verb conjugation. And we'll be seeing a few verbs, including revising the verb être. We'll see the verb avoir. And of course, you know what être means, to be, avoir, to have. And then we're going to see the verb aller. In addition to verb conjugation, we're going to reinforce our knowledge of conjugation using certain exercises, practice exercises to reinforce our knowledge of verb conjugation. And from phonetics point of view, we're going to look at liaison, and we're going to look at liaison and elision. So this is just a basic summary of the grammar learning objectives of Unit 3. From communication point of view, you are going to learn quite a lot. By the time we are done, you are going to be able to describe your health condition. You'll be able to describe health conditions, including mental and physical health conditions. You will be able to talk about movement. You're going to be able to use certain verbs to describe moving from point A to point B. You'll be able to express your age and other people's age. So giving information about age. So, and then those are the key learning objectives from the communication point of view. And then in culture, we're just going to see a number of idiomatic expressions. And from culture perspective, we're going to see a number of idiomatic expressions that are based on the verb avoir and probably the verb aller. So in summary, these are the learning objectives that we want to target to achieve in Unit 3. And like I have said in previous units, the reason it is important that you understand this going forward is so you're able to measure what you have achieved by the time you complete the unit. And if you ever run into any kind of difficulties or you don't understand anything during the unit, feel free to let me know so that we can find a solution. Merci. Bienvenue à votre cours de français. Bonjour, je m'appelle Chidi. first of all, I want to congratulate you for what you have done so far in completing Unit 3 and welcome to Unit 4. And I hope that having gone through Units 1, 2, and 3, you are learning a lot of French. We still have a long way to go. I just want to encourage you that what you are doing will help in building you for your linguistic competence in French in the future. So first of all, if you wanted to say congratulations to somebody, the way to do that in French is to say félicitations. You can put an S and then put an exclamation mark. Répétez s'il vous plaît, félicitations. Yeah, so quite often you will hear French speakers saying félicitations to one another, and that's what you say, félicitations. So in this particular lesson, I wanted to go through the learning objectives of Unit 4, and the reason this is important, as you know, is to serve as a guide to you, so you know ahead of time what you are expected to cover and what you are expected to pay attention to in this unit. So, and as usual, we are going to have objectives that cover grammar. So under grammar, you are going to learn the articles in French, articles, and this is going to be both definite and indefinite, which means you will see types of articles and you will see the roles that they play in French language. You are going to learn about gender of nouns and gender of articles and how articles can help you to quickly identify the gender of nouns. So far we have been making sentences in the positive. So we are going to learn how to do negation. Negation, that's how to make negative sentences in French. For example, if you want to say I am Chidi, and then you say I am not Chidi, so that is a negative sentence. We'll learn how to form those in French, and then we'll take some exercises. To consolidate what we have learned. So that is from grammar point of view. And then from communication point of view, we will also focus on a lot that will help you to increase your knowledge of vocabulary in French. So then we will see some vocabularies, list of vocabularies, and then look at classroom objects. And so these are objects you find in the classroom, and also commands, expressions that you can use in a regular classroom. Look at other vocabularies, and then we will look at, I will write it around here. We'll look at the use of il y a, and voilà. So these are the key things we expect to cover in this unit. Let's go and get it done. Merci. Bienvenue à votre cours de français en ligne. Je m'appelle Chidi. First of all, I want to congratulate you for completing the previous units 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I want to welcome you to Unit 5. In this lesson, I want to take a quick look at the learning objectives of Unit 5. By the time we finish Unit 5, your knowledge of French will increase drastically. And that is because Unit 5 will focus on verbs. And I see verbs as the core of the language. So it is the central thing in your sentence. And around it, you can put other parts of speech and in sentence formation. So once we go through this chapter, you would have covered a bunch of verbs, you know, that will increase your vocabulary and your knowledge of French. So just like the other ones, we're going to have objectives covering grammar, communication, and culture. In grammar, we'll be looking at verb conjugation, like I said. Conjugation. And you already know what verb conjugation is: a process of breaking down a verb to agree in number and gender with your nouns or pronouns. And under verb conjugation, we'll be focusing on the three French verb groups, the ER verbs. ER verbs, we look at IR verbs, we look at RE verbs. So our main objective is to focus primarily on ER verbs, but we're going to touch briefly on IR verbs and RE verbs, and then give you enough foundation to be able to attack this in future French courses. So we'll be looking at regular verbs in these categories. Most ER verbs are regular verbs, you know. So we're looking at regular ER, IR, and RE verbs. Also, from the grammar perspective, we're going to go into sentence formation. We're looking at a few key verbs like pouvoir, to be able to do something, vouloir, to want to do something, to want to have something, and devoir, ought to have to do something. So when we look at these verbs, we're going to use them to focus on how to combine verbs in sentence formation, how you can use these verbs as support verbs with other verbs in your sentences. And so we talk about two verb or multiple verb sentences. So how to use two or multiple verbs together in a sentence. We'll look at that. And then from communication point of view, in communication and culture, I'll just say comms here. In communication and culture, we're going to look at how to go to a store and buy something, you know. So we say buying, if you want, buying and selling. From that point of view of going to a store and picking up something and saying, how much is this? The seller will tell you this is $2, for example, and then you'll be able to complete that transaction. So those are the key things that we'll be focusing on in this unit. Now, I'm looking forward to really getting into it, and I hope you are. Merci. Bonjour mon cher étudiant, ma chère étudiante, bienvenue à votre cours de français. Je m'appelle Chidi. We have come a long way, and I really want to congratulate you. It is not easy. You are learning by yourself. It is not easy, but I hope you are learning something. In this lesson, I'm going to welcome you to Unit 6, and I'm going to take a moment to go through the learning objectives of the unit. In the previous unit, you focused on understanding how verbs work, verb conjugation. That was the primary concern that we had. And I hope that you have increased your knowledge of French, that you now know a lot of verbs that you can use and how to conjugate them in the present tense. One of the verbs that you're going to be using to talk about learning is the verb apprendre. Apprendre. Apprendre, to learn something. So every time I start a new unit, you are going to be asking me, qu'est-ce que Qu'est-ce que je vais apprendre dans cette unité? Qu'est-ce que, what? Qu'est-ce que je vais? The verb aller in the present tense. Then apprendre. Remember how we learned how to use two verbs together. The first one is conjugated. The second one is not. Qu'est-ce que je vais apprendre dans, in, cette, this, unité, unit? What am I going to learn in this unit? So that is the question you are going to be asking me. And in order to answer that question, I will say, vous allez apprendre, you are going to learn, then I give a list of the things you are going to learn. So watch out for this as we go into the remaining lessons. Dans cette unité, vous allez apprendre and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, right? Voilà. So sentence formation. Qu'est-ce que vous allez apprendre? Qu'est-ce que nous allons apprendre? Qu'est-ce qu'il va apprendre? Qu'est-ce que tu vas apprendre? Nous allons apprendre A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. And by the way, to conjugate the verb apprendre in the present tense, if you wanted to use the verb directly, j'apprends, tu apprends, il, elle, on apprend, nous apprenons, vous apprenez, ils apprennent. It is an RE verb, as you remember. Donc, répétez s'il vous plaît. J'apprends, tu apprends, il apprend, elle apprend, on apprend, nous apprenons, vous apprenez, ils apprennent, elles apprennent. Donc, aujourd'hui, you can start making sentences. Aujourd'hui, nous apprenons le français. Aujourd'hui, nous apprenons les adjectifs. Alright, now that we have learned how to say what we are going to learn in a unit, let us identify the things we're going to learn in this particular unit. The global objectives remain. So we have grammar, we have communication and vocabulary, we have culture. In grammar, we are going to focus on, I just put GR here for grammar. We're going to focus on les adjectifs, adjectifs qualificatifs, les adjectifs qualificatifs, that's adjectives, qualifying adjectives. So that's basically what we're going to learn. We're going to focus on how they behave, how to use them in masculine, in feminine, in singular, in plural, and then we'll pay attention to that. Then in communication and vocabulary, so I will say comms and vocab. In communication and vocabulary, we are going to learn family relationships. So we say family. You will see various types of families, the relationship between individuals in the family, for example, brother, sister, mother, and so on and so forth. We will learn that. We will learn la maison. La maison, the house. Nous allons apprendre la maison. Description de la maison. Description. Nous allons apprendre à décrire. Décrire is the verb to describe. We are going to learn to describe our houses. Items you find in your houses and all those kind of things. And then we are going to learn some interrogative words. Words like when, where, how, and so on and so forth. So, we say, nous allons apprendre les mots. Mots, words. M-O-T-S. Les mots interrogatifs. Interrogatifs. Nous allons apprendre les relations familiales, ok, les relations familiales, relations familiales, See how I put S there because it's feminine and it's plural. ES, feminine plural. Nous allons apprendre les relations familiales. Nous allons apprendre à décrire notre maison. Nous allons apprendre à décrire notre maison. Nous allons apprendre les mots interrogatifs. We're going to learn family relationships, how to describe our homes, and interrogative words. And in culture, that's culture. In culture, nous allons étudier. You can use étudier. Why not? We are going to study, étudier. Nous allons étudier la famille française. La famille française. La famille française, which means the French family. We're going to see family, structure of families in French. And then we are going to learn les maisons françaises. Nous allons étudier, nous allons apprendre les maisons françaises. French homes. So how homes are structured in France. See, plural, again, because plural. Les maisons françaises, and this is an adjective, so that's what we're going to learn actually, so don't worry about that. Just see, pay attention to how I write these things, where I put S and where I don't put S. Les maisons françaises, la famille française, that's what we're going to be learning from the cultural perspective. Let's go and get it done. Merci.